before it was going up to like leadership at the time and saying, hey, I found this cool tool. I think it'll help us do X, Y, and Z. Can I have it? That conversation is now shifted because now I look at our budget. I'm like, does it make sense to have all of these smaller tools to do very granular specific things? Or is there an all-encompassing tool? If you have a singular tool that everyone's in, you can kind of unify the business to be like, hey, this is what we really need to focus on.
Today we have a very different episode with Serge from Tommy John. Serge is another Noibu OG, first interacted with us in 2020 during the COVID era when he was just a developer at Tommy John. Now he's leading the whole technology org as the VP of engineering and IT. And we're really excited. We're covering how when he started working on Noibu as a developer, he knew a lot of our kind of best of breed point solution features. And as he's become an executive, the Noibu product has obviously expanded in uses in Tommy John and in use cases. And now he talks a bit about how he's using it across his whole organization. Welcome to another episode of the e-commerce toolbox expert's perspective. Today, we have a little bit of a different episode. We're bringing in a friend of the show, a friend of Noibu, a longtime customer, Serge, who heads up technology at Tommy John. So welcome, Serge.
Well, thanks, Kailin.
Serge, we first met probably 2021, maybe around the COVID era, 2020, 2021. Maybe talk to us a bit about your kind of career path at Tommy John and how you ended up in your VP role.
2021, my role was quite different. I was a developer working at Tommy John, mostly focused on marketing, tasks, and implementation of tags. So from a Noibu perspective, boss at the time was interested in identifying like errors and problems on the site before they were called out by cross-functional team members. And so I believe through coworker at the time, Ahmad, he was the one who you had reached out to, and that's how we found out about Noibu, and just got through the process of trying to test out Noibu and being able to see like issues and problems on the site. A bit skeptical at first when found out about Noibu. Just it was a lot of questioning the errors that were occurring because like as things would be available within Noibu, I would try to replicate it, and I'm like, hey, I can't replicate it. I can't see the issue. Or the values that I saw was, hey, how are we losing this much money from this particular error? But really got to work with your team and kind of change my mentality and thinking about the errors, working with your team to kind of adjust some of the readouts that we were getting through the dashboard. So really just continue to partner with your team and get to a product that really worked best for Tommy John, but also helped Noibu grow to be able to help us better. And then in addition to that, I just continue to focus more on the technology and integrations at Tommy John to the point where now I'm kind of leading the strategy for technology at Tommy John based off of cross-functional needs and concerns.
Love it. Well, Serge, like I mentioned at the beginning, this will be a bit of a different episode because one of the things that we're really trying to get out into the market and within our customer base is most of our customers, if not all of our customers, bought us for the use case that you initially just called out. Error prioritization. We really pioneered the concept of like proactive error monitoring when it came to like revenue side of it. So it's like, hey, we do a release, there's a bug, or someone, because you're in the Shopify ecosystem, someone else does a release on an app, which is a lot of the times what's actually the kind of trigger point. What's the impact? How do I fix it? Is it first party? Is it third party? Is this impacting conversion? That's really where we kind of cemented our place in the stack. But as you know, when we first started working together, there was a lot of different tools, right? There's analytics tools, there's heat mapping tools, there's even in some cases like logging tools or performance tools, a lot of different tools. And during COVID, that was okay. But in 2021, 2022, and definitely in 2023, our customers started telling us like, hey, we have a lot of tools that have some sort of overlap, and we want to consistently really triangulate that downwards. And we want to consolidate over time. Obviously, we want things that work, but we want to consolidate tools. So maybe talk to us a bit of a high level, like obviously you've been with the business and you must have seen this firsthand. So talk to us a bit about the mindset shift that you're seeing, where it's like, hey, we used to have 7 tools. There's a lot of overlap, but now maybe we want 3 or 4.
Right. We definitely go through that process of evaluating the tools that we have. Before it was going up to like leadership at the time and saying, hey, I found this cool tool. I think it'll help us do X, Y, and Z. Can I have it? That conversation is now shifted because now I look at our budget. I'm like, okay, we have X amount of dollars and we are trying to do these initiatives for the year. Does it make sense to have all of these smaller tools to do very granular specific things, or is there an all-encompassing tool to get us maybe not 100% of the way there, but maybe 70-80% of the way there in cross-layer functionality, so that we can cut away at some of those granular things and have a more broader picture? Another thing that's really important for us is a lot of that cross-tool discrepancy. You have 4 or 5 different tools that tell you varying to a varying degree different things. And one person in an organization was like, well, based off of this tool, like we're doing great. And then another person, and not necessarily competing, but that have different kind of metrics or KPIs that they go by, or well, according to what you're saying, my KPIs are down, but according to this tool, my KPIs are up. So really trying to cut away at a lot of that discrepancy noise and tooling differences and relying on a singular tool to get us to a unified view of KPIs for the business. Because ideally, if you have a lot of these tools, there's a lot of debate and you waste a lot of time arguing nuances and minutia of discrepancies. But if you have a singular tool that everyone's in, you can kind of unify the business to be like, hey, this is what we really need to focus on. And there's not a lot of back and forth about data points.
That's such an interesting perspective. And that's definitely something that came up in our research, right? There's different tools that are reporting similar KPIs, if not the same KPIs, but there's large discrepancies. And you end up, and if people don't trust the data, it's hard to have an objective conversation. There's no worst feeling. And we've even had this happen internally where like you get into this heated debate about a KPI and how it should get better. And then you rerun the query and the number goes from like worst in class to best in class. And you're like, we literally just wasted so much time. What is this? So that's really like, as we evolve our platform, we want to not only attack it on the technology and the cost saving side, but there's a huge overhang and a drag on an organization from having all these different tools that are saying different things. It's different training, multiple license, vendor management, and then to your point, you have conflicting data points. And if you don't have a baseline, it's like pretty hard to iterate, and it's pretty hard to like actually understand if you test moving forward. So no, that's a really, really, really good perspective. Talk to me a bit about how you've seen kind of the Noibu platform evolve, even from your own perspective. Like we were initially an error monitoring, then we kind of started venturing off into performance, and you're pretty involved in our roadmap. Be super, super curious to hear on your side.
So I remember when I first started with Noibu, it was, hey, there's an error on your site. This is the error that's occurring. Go fix it. There wasn't a lot of guidance at the time as to how to fix it. A lot of the times we would run into it's a third party issue. I can't necessarily fix it, but it was something that was being reported out that it was causing issues from a revenue perspective. So working with your team to really get through, identify some of the third party issues that are things that I can never really solve for. Like, as an example, if it's a meta tag and they have some erroneous JavaScript that's in their script, as much as I would love to go in and fix it, I can't because I have to just load it on our site. So just working with your Noibu to kind of remove those types of errors, it helped us really focus on specificity, helping out with issues that happened like on our checkout to ensure that if there were any problems in checkout, we can address them before it became a business critical issue. So really loved partnering with your team to be able to get to and fine tune a lot of those issues, as well as a lot of the AI functionalities to be able to call out, well, this is the issue, this is where it's happening in your stack, this is how we think you should fix it in order to get to a solution quicker. That's something that I've found very resourceful, and it cuts down on a lot of the development time. It also cuts down on a lot of the QA time that we have to be able to validate and ensure that, hey, this is really a problem that we really should be focusing on. And then also just those metrics as far as revenue loss. Your Noibu has gotten much better in being able to quantify and identify really what is a problem that could potentially diminish revenue. And if we fixed it from a prioritization standpoint, we could really gain back those dollars that we would be losing if we didn't.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And you're describing a lot of kind of that core product innovation that we've been working on for so long. And now that we're looking to prioritize surface area over depth on that feature set, obviously you've been at our roadmap events and things like that. How are you thinking about, for example, how we approach performance monitoring to really kind of complete the monitoring suite? Is that something that your team's leveraged and your team has been able to replace other tools or other areas of looking at it? I'm curious to hear about that.
So one of the tools that we were able to get away from is synthetics. We were using another vendor. We were able to downsize and reduce the amount of tooling that we had and simplify to tooling for analytics as well as Noibu. Performance perspective, while we have tooling inside of, say, like Shopify as an example, we're able to cooperate what we're seeing in Noibu and it's matching back to what we would see like in Shopify from an analytics perspective. So really trusting the data that we're seeing in Noibu in order to be able to just say, hey, this makes sense. We trust the data. From a dashboard perspective, it's part of our QA process to review and analyze to make sure the numbers are at the levels that we expect them to be for releases. There's no, it's part of our regression testing to make sure that for this particular release that we're doing, are there any new regressions? Or if we see them within the next like week or so, we can tie it back to a specific release because Noibu allows us to identify and tag releases in the platform. So really incorporating into our QA process, our regression testing, and then also more of a future stake. We do some testing in regards to accessibility. Would love the opportunity for Noibu to kind of continue to go in that direction to be able to identify accessibility issues, because that's one of the things that is important for us because we do have one, not just from a customer perspective, but from the sake of being able to ensure we're protecting ourselves for any type of legal ramification.
Makes a lot of sense. Serge, I mean, I'm sure you chat with a lot of other technical executives that are kind of in retail as well. What are some of the high level trends that you're seeing for 2026 so far? Like what's kind of top of mind? What's everyone talking about?
So data accuracy is a top topic for other leaderships that I've spoken to for 2026. AI definitely a hot topic and how to leverage AI, and is the conversation we could leverage AI to do coding work for development purposes, to be able to identify issues and work with systems. Tariffs is also another topic that comes up, and then integrations of systems, just being sure that you're leveraging the tooling that you have to maximize your ROI, because we spend a lot of money on like these very expensive tools, but people wind up using probably 20 to 30% of the ROI that it could provide. So really like digging deep to see, is this tool the right tool for me, or should I be using something different? And then consolidation, because there's a lot of tools that do very specific things, but can, like I said earlier, can we get to that 70-80% of functionality across tools with one tool?
Makes sense. And just on the Noibu strategy side, a lot of the tools that we compete against are horizontal, which means they serve many masters, right? They have different industries. Our bet is that we can actually deliver an all-in-one, but because we only serve commerce, we actually can get to that 100 and 110% functionality, if that makes sense. Because we don't have to build everything, right? Like if you look at a traditional horizontal tool that sells SaaS companies, like they're going to have features that are just not relevant to a retail business, if that makes sense. And we don't have to build those. So that's our big bet, and why we think we have the right to own the complete end-to-end stack. Yeah, we're really excited for this. And Serge, I know we're almost up on time, so I wanted to thank you so much for being a great long-term Noibu partner. And a lot of your feedback has definitely informed our roadmap. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.